Although his passing occurred 14 years ago, Peter Steele's haunting baritone vocals, his iconic vampire-like persona, and his remarkable 6'8" in stature continue to linger in the memories of devoted fans. He captivated the world and steered the course of Gothic metal in a unique direction as the lead singer of Type O Negative. Yet beneath the fame and acclaim surrounding Type O Negative lies one of the most sorrowful, untold stories in history, shedding light on Peter Steele's relentless battle with his inner demons. Join us as we delve into the tragic beginnings of Peter Steele's life. Before Peter Steele became famous for his role in Type O Negative, he was a member of a thrash-influenced metal band called Carnivore. This band had a raw and aggressive sound that laid the groundwork for Steele's future musical endeavors. Unfortunately, Carnivore eventually disbanded, leaving its members in a precarious situation as they had to find regular jobs outside of the music industry. For many musicians, transitioning to a conventional career after a band breakup could be a devastating blow to their artistic aspirations. However, for Peter Steele, as described by Louder Sound, the real tragedy would have been quitting his day job. In the period between Carnivore and Type O Negative, Steele found employment with the New York City Parks Department. During his tenure at the Parks Department, Steele's life took on a different rhythm. In an interview with Revolver Mag, Monty Connor, the former vice president of A&R for Roadrunner Records, who played a pivotal role in signing Type O Negative, recalled that this was a time when Peter Steele was genuinely content. Steele embraced his routine, relished being at home, and truly enjoyed working for the Parks Department. His presence there seemed to bring a sense of warmth and familiarity to the community, as Connor humorously described him as the Jolly Green Giant. One could easily imagine Steele strolling through the park, going about his duties, exchanging pleasantries with elderly park-goers, and perhaps even sharing bagels with the homeless. Although Steele was passionate about his day job and relished the stability it provided, he never abandoned his love for music. According to Revolver Mag, he once revealed that he had written one of Type O Negative's biggest hits while driving a garbage truck during his employment with the Parks Department. Music remained an integral part of his life, even as he fulfilled his responsibilities as a public servant. However, Steele's reluctance to return to the touring lifestyle became a source of tension within the band. He resisted the idea of going back on the road for an extended period, despite the band's desire to tour and promote their music. This discord eventually led to the departure of their drummer, exacerbating the internal conflicts. Ultimately, after much persuasion and deliberation, Steele was convinced to embark on a tour with Type O Negative, a decision that would force him to bid farewell to the job he loved at the Parks Department. Despite his status as a celebrated musician, he was never completely satisfied with his own work, a trait that added a layer of complexity to his creative process. One telling incident that illustrates his perfectionism was his reaction to a critical review of Type O Negative's debut album, Slow, Deep, and Hard. In an interview, Steele was seen getting visibly enraged at the review, but in a remarkable display of self-critique, he openly acknowledged the flaws of the album. He confessed that he had been compelled to hastily compose the songs for the album in a single evening, emphasizing that it was originally intended as a mere demo. This dichotomy in his response, anger at criticism, yet an acknowledgement of his own dissatisfaction, showcased the depth of his artistic sensibilities. It wasn't just the songs on Slow, Deep, and Hard that drew his critical eye. Monty Connor, the individual responsible for first signing Type O Negative, had an insightful perspective on Steele's perfectionism, particularly in relation to the band's pivotal album, Bloody Kisses. Connor regarded Steele and his bandmates as musical geniuses who had indeed crafted a masterpiece, but he also revealed that Steele's meticulousness was at times a source of exasperation. Speaking to Revolver Mag, Connor highlighted Steele's unwavering focus on every facet of the band's presentation, from album covers to the minute details of the liner notes. Steele's fixation on the color green became a notable quirk of his perfectionism. Connor explained that Peter was obsessed with the color green and insisted on incorporating it into every aspect of the band's visual identity. Yet, it wasn't just any shade of green that satisfied him. It had to be the precisely right shade. Connor recounted how Steele would spend hours meticulously scrutinizing hundreds of different shades of green until he found the one that matched his vision for the band. Type O negative. Renowned for their distinctive blend of heavy sound, and Peter Steele's mournful lyrics filled with classic horror imagery, possessed a unique artistic identity that often contained an element of humor that was not immediately apparent to all listeners. Beneath the surface of their Gothic image, Steele's dry sense of humor added a layer of complexity to their music and lyrics that might have eluded some. One of the defining characteristics of Type O Negative's music was the juxtaposition of their heavy, brooding sound with lyrics that ranged from themes of vengeance and failed romances to classic horror elements like werewolves. However, what set the band apart was their penchant for infusing their songs with a subtle sense of humor. Steele himself was a master of this craft, using darkly comedic elements to lighten the mood amidst the gloomy atmosphere of their music. In an interview with NJ, Steele shed light on the band's approach to humor in their music. He expressed a belief that many of their listeners were missing the underlying joke, which was that Type O Negative didn't take themselves too seriously. He humorously remarked, "People don't get the joke, which is that we think we're the joke." This statement emphasized their willingness to playfully deconstruct the conventions of the genre they inhabited and challenge the expectations of their audience. It was precisely this aspect of Type O Negative's music that could lead to misunderstandings and frustrations for the band. Steele found it perplexing when reviewers and critics seemed to interpret their work as more serious and somber than intended. Some of the criticisms that irked Steele the most came from those who failed to recognize the band's underlying sense of humor. In an interview, Peter Steele candidly described Type O Negative as completely unserious. He acknowledged that a substantial portion of what he said, both on stage and off, had a certain element of cornball humor. This assertion sheds light on the band's deliberate choice to juxtapose their gloomy aesthetic with moments of levity and whimsy. They embraced a kind of self-awareness that allowed them to playfully subvert the expectations of their audience and challenge the notion that they were a wholly serious and somber act. Type O Negative's lyrics often courted controversy and were prone to misinterpretation, but one offstage comment by Peter Steele triggered a significant controversy that bore similarities to a famous incident involving John Lennon. The incident centered around an interview in which Steele made a reference to a well-known John Lennon quote, leading to protests and canceled concerts, much like the original joke that had stirred up controversy around the Beatles. The initial incident that John Lennon caused occurred during a television interview in 1966. Lennon remarked that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus, a statement he likely intended as an observation about the changing cultural landscape. However, this remark ignited a firestorm of protests and backlash against the Beatles in various parts of the world, especially in the United States, where it was met with outrage and religious condemnation. Fast forward to 1991, during Type O Negative's European tour, when Peter Steele gave an interview to a German magazine. In the interview, Steele humorously compared the band's popularity in Germany to a historical figure, stating that Type O Negative was more popular in Germany than Adolf Hitler. The intention behind this comment was to make a lighthearted and ironic observation about their fan base. However, as Steele later explained, the comment was tragically misinterpreted as an endorsement of fascism, drawing parallels between the band and Hitler. This misunderstanding led to protests and even bomb threats directed at their record label. Steele was taken aback by the severity of the reaction and the controversy that had erupted as a result of his remark. In an interview addressing the incident, He expressed his anxiety about returning to Europe, but also emphasized the importance of setting the record straight. Steele wanted to convey that he was not the person people had misconstrued him to be, and that Type O Negative's comment had been intended purely as a humorous observation. He revealed his genuine desire to show people that he was not aligned with any extremist ideologies, and that their primary purpose was to play music, even if it was, as he put it, lousy music. Steele's acknowledgement of the controversy and his willingness to clarify his intentions demonstrated his commitment to addressing misunderstandings, even if it meant confronting the tumultuous aftermath of an offhand remark. Peter Steele was also a songwriter who infused genuine emotion into his songs. Much of this heartfelt emotion stemmed from his tumultuous love life, which left an indelible mark on his creative output. In the liner notes of the album, Bloody Kisses, there is a poignant message that encapsulates the depth of Peter Steele's emotional struggles and his dedication to those who had experienced the pain of unconditional love. The message reads, "This entire opus is respectfully dedicated to all those who have loved unconditionally only to have their hearts unaesthetically ripped out. Base not your joy upon the deeds of others, for what is given can be taken away. No hope, no fear." Peter, as quoted by Revolver Mag. This dedication serves as a poignant reminder of the personal turmoil that Steele endured in the realm of love and relationships. As highlighted by Kerrang, Steele himself attributed some of the darkest periods in his life to the aftermath of failed relationships. Many of the songs he penned for Type O Negative were profoundly influenced by his experiences with ex-girlfriends and former lovers. One of the band's most beloved songs, Black Number 1, was born from the ashes of one of Steele's particularly devastating breakups, an experience he openly admitted had driven him to contemplate suicide. When questioned about his suicide attempt, Steele offered a candid and introspective response, saying, "All I can say is I fell in love with the wrong person." This admission encapsulated the deep emotional scars and personal trials he had endured in his pursuit of love and companionship. Peter Steele's openness about his personal struggles, including his suicide attempt, provided a window into the complex and challenging aspects of his life. He described his suicide attempt as a symbolic death, emphasizing that he no longer identified with the person who had reached that dark point. This candid reflection offered a glimpse into his resilience and determination to overcome his inner demons. Beyond his suicide attempt, Steele was remarkably forthcoming about his mental health issues, which included addiction, bipolar disorder, and depression. His willingness to discuss these challenges openly and honestly helped break down stigmas surrounding mental health, making him a relatable figure to many who grappled with similar issues. In an interview with KNAC, Steele revealed the daily struggles he faced, where only about 1 out of every 3 days was a good one for him. This stark admission shed light on the roller coaster of emotions and experiences he navigated on a regular basis. He shared that his motivation to get out of bed often centered on caring for his 5 beloved cats, highlighting the profound connection he had with his animal companions during challenging times. A particularly poignant insight into Steele's perspective came in an interview with the ROC, where he candidly described life as pretty much a waste of time. This statement provided a glimpse into the depths of his depression and the existential questions that haunted him. During the production of one of Type O Negative's albums, Steele decided to go off his prescribed medication, a decision that had a profound impact on his creative process. He revealed that this change in his mental state significantly influenced his songwriting. On his more depressive days, he found himself crafting lengthy, somber songs that echoed the depths of his emotional struggles. Conversely, during manic phases, he experienced a burst of creativity, resulting in a flurry of songs that showcased the full spectrum of his emotional journey. The death of Peter Steele's father in February of 1995 had a profound impact on him, leading him into a period of struggle and introspection. It was an event that he found difficult to come to terms with, and his journey through grief and acceptance would heavily influence his art and creative output. In an interview with As Long as It's Black, Steele made a candid admission that he had not attended his father's funeral and had, in fact, waited more than 4 years to visit his father's grave. This revelation shed light on the depth of his emotional turmoil and difficulty in processing his loss. The grieving process for Steele was a complex and prolonged one, marked by a reluctance to confront the finality of his father's passing. Losing his father had a profound and lasting impact on Steele, leading him to develop what he referred to as an obsession with death and loss. This preoccupation with mortality became a recurring theme in his work, infusing his lyrics with a haunting and introspective quality that resonated with fans and added depth to his music. One of the most notable songs that emerged from Steele's experience was Todd's Ship Gods, a track that delved into the emotions surrounding his first visit to his father's grave. This song became a poignant reflection of his journey through grief, allowing him to process and express the complex emotions he had been grappling with. Additionally, Steele's interactions with the medical system during his father's illness and after his passing left a lasting imprint on him. He recounted how, for months following his father's death, he continued to receive medical bills in the mail. These bills, charging his family for medical tests and procedures that had ultimately failed to help his father, served as a painful reminder of the shortcomings of the for-profit medical system. This experience fueled the creation of the title track for the album Life is Killing Me. The song's lyrics held a scathing critique of doctors and the healthcare industry in general, reflecting Steele's frustration and disillusionment with a system that had failed his family during a time of profound vulnerability. Peter Steele's creative process was deeply intertwined with his emotional experiences, often drawing inspiration from the things that stirred his innermost feelings. The emotional resonance within Type O Negative's songs played a significant role in attracting a dedicated fan base who could relate to the raw and genuine sentiments embedded in the music. However, while using personal tragedies as a wellspring for songwriting allowed Steele to create deeply moving and relatable music, it also posed a significant challenge for him when it came to performing these songs repeatedly on tour. The emotional weight carried by some of these compositions made it painful for him to revisit the source of his grief, night after night. Two notable examples of this emotional depth can be found in the songs Everything Dies and Everyone I Love Is Dead, both from the album World Coming Down. These tracks directly referenced deaths in Steele's family, including the loss of his father. According to an interview with his bandmate Josh Silver for Revolver Mag, Steele struggled with performing these songs live because they hit so close to home. Singing about these personal tragedies on stage was a poignant and challenging experience for him, even though he had been the one to write them. World Coming Down is often considered the most notoriously dark album in Type O Negative's discography. However, it is not the only one to explore the theme of personal tragedy. The album Life is Killing Me also contains multiple songs inspired by Steele's father's passing, offering a continuation of his exploration of grief and loss. Interestingly, the album Bloody Kisses features a track titled Bloody Kisses, A Death in the Family that reveals a different facet of Steele's emotional landscape. Its dark and enigmatic title, the song is actually about the death of his beloved cat, Venus. Steele intentionally kept the lyrics vague, as he acknowledged that singing about his feline companion might not resonate with the image he projected as a towering figure with long black hair and an imposing presence. In an interview quoted by Revolver Mag, he explained, "No one wants to hear a guy who's 6'8" with long black hair and fangs crying about his cat. So I had to make it extremely metaphorical. I have a huge problem with abandonment and loss, so I took it very seriously." Peter Steele's struggle with substance abuse, particularly alcohol and cocaine, was a significant chapter in his life, one marked by self-destructive behavior and personal challenges that took a toll on his well-being, relationships, and career. Steele candidly acknowledged his issues with addiction, revealing in an interview with Metal Hammer, via Louder Sound, that it was part of a broader pattern of self-destructive behavior. This pattern extended to provocative clothing choices meant to incite fights and even posting signs outside his home encouraging intruders, which reflected the extent of his inner turmoil. Remarkably, Steele did not begin experimenting with drugs until he was 35 years old, a point at which Type O Negative had already achieved considerable success. In an interview with Revolver Mag, he discussed the risky nature of his drug use while on tour, as people frequently offered him substances, making it difficult for him to ensure their safety and origin. This environment only exacerbated his struggles with addiction, as the temptations were constant and the sources were often uncertain. Steele's bandmate, Kenny Hickey, shed light on the toll that addiction took on Steele's mental health. Serious depression accompanied his substance abuse, preventing him from enjoying the things he once cherished and permeating his work with a sense of despondency. This dual struggle with addiction and depression created a challenging and painful chapter in his life. In an interview with Blabbermouth, Steele expressed remorse and awareness of the harm his addiction had caused to himself, his loved ones, and his band. He acknowledged the damage it had inflicted on his reputation and took the opportunity to address his fans directly, offering a heartfelt plea. "Fortunately, I feel like I have a second chance. And maybe I can make amends by saying to the fans, don't try it." The passing of Peter Steele's father marked a turning point in his life, leading him down a destructive path of increased drug use as a means to cope with the overwhelming grief and emotional turmoil. In an interview with Artisan Service News, Steele admitted that during this period, he found a sense of euphoria and invincibility in the momentary highs that drugs provided. But in reality, he was spiraling out of control, slipping further into the abyss of addiction. As his drug use escalated, Steele's family, deeply concerned about his well-being, decided to intervene. However, from Steele's perspective, this intervention felt like a betrayal. He believed that his family's actions were not altruistic and that they had no right to make decisions on his behalf. In his eyes, they had encroached on his autonomy and taken away his agency. According to Steele, his family's intervention was executed on Christmas Eve, a poignant and emotionally charged moment, further intensifying the distress he experienced. He was forcibly removed from his home and placed in a psychiatric facility against his will. This traumatic experience was followed by periods of incarceration and eventual rehabilitation, marking a turbulent journey toward recovery. The profound divide that emerged between Steele and his family as a result of this intervention left emotional scars that ran deep. In an emotional interview, he candidly expressed his sentiments, saying, "I just feel that certain people who said that they loved me took advantage of my situation. It makes me very sad." Peter Steele's life had been marked by years of grappling with mental illness, navigating the aftermath of his father's death, and enduring tumultuous relationships with drugs and alcohol. However, after Type O Negative's final tour in 2009, there appeared to be a glimmer of hope and positivity on the horizon. As described by his bandmate Sal Abruscato in an interview with Louder Sound, Steele seemed to be in a better place than he had been in quite some time. He had achieved sobriety and exhibited genuine excitement about creating more music, fostering a sense of hope for what lay ahead. For those who cared about him, it appeared that he was on an upward trajectory toward a brighter future. Tragically, this period of hope was abruptly cut short when Peter Steele passed away. Concerns had arisen among his bandmates, particularly due to the ailing health of one of Steele's beloved cats, Tito. They feared that the stress and sadness stemming from his cat's condition might trigger a relapse into substance abuse. In an attempt to reach out and offer support, his bandmates made efforts to contact him. However, they could only communicate with his girlfriend, who informed them that Steele was unwell with the flu. Little did they know that this would be their last interaction with him. Peter Steele's untimely death, which occurred on the same day as his cherished cat Tito's passing, was attributed to sepsis resulting from diverticulitis, as reported by Nepocene. The suddenness of his passing left his loved ones and fans stunned and heartbroken. In the wake of his death, Steele's remaining feline companions found solace and care through his older sister, Pam, who adopted them. This compassionate act ensured that his beloved cats, who had been a source of comfort and companionship during his challenging journey, would continue to receive love and care. What do you think about the tragic life of leader Peter Steele? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.